G'day race fans, in this video I am repairing the sump and completing the install of the sump baffle. Details next. I'm Mark Louth from Black Dog Motorsport, and if you or someone you know has the black dog chasing them, there are some links in the description which you might find useful. If you haven't seen part 1, I would recommend shooting over there now and having a look at that first. You can click on the card in the top right of the screen, or there will be a link in the description. In part 1 we finished up with everything disassembled but with a damaged sump, so the first order of business is to repair that. The tools you see here are a collection of general purpose panel beating tools made up primarily of hammers and dollies, and it's these tools I will be using to return the sump to a square and flat condition so it will once again seal properly. The ins and outs of metal working is outside the scope of this video. However, I will mention the key to doing this sort of work is the selection of the right hammer and dolly combination at the right time. There are heaps of really good videos on YouTube to watch if you are interested. Okay, now that the sump is back in shape and flat again, it's time to turn our attention to the subject of resealing the sump. Right out of the gate, let me state categorically, I am not going to be using the OEM sealant to refit the sump. But wait, there's more! I'm going to be using RTV. What follows is a discussion on the use of RTV sealants and sealants in general. If you would like to go straight to the install, the timestamp is on the screen now. Let's clear a few things up first. If you use RTV to seal a gasket, an O-ring or a seal, then you are off your rocker. Personal opinion. In the case of O-rings and rubber seals, lightly coat them with a small amount of red rubber grease, making sure all mating surfaces are clean and dry. If they leak, then you have the wrong seal or something else is wrong. You should not use RTV to rectify this if it can be avoided, as all you are doing is masking the problem, and chances are you're going to have further dramas later on down the track. Fix what's broken, don't dodgy it up with RTV. For gaskets, I use Loctite 515 master gasket or aviation gasket cement, depending on which is the most appropriate for the type of gasket material being used. For example, on a cork seal I would use 515 master gasket because it's flexible when it's cured, and for a paper type gasket, aviation gasket cement would be my choice. What I wouldn't use is RTV. Now, for flanges that are not close tolerance machine surfaces like sheet metal, press form sumps that do not use a gasket, RTV is a perfectly acceptable sealant if you use it correctly, and that's the problem. People don't use it correctly. So what's the right way? Well, we should read the instructions. Yes, I know, probably unmanly, certainly un-Australian, but there you go. Sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do. So what do the instructions say? Apply a 2 to 6 millimeter bead of silicone on one surface surrounding all bolt holes and assemble immediately. Now this is the important bit. Finger tighten the bolts until the material begins to squeeze out of the flange and then stop. Let dry for 1 hour, that's right, 1 hour, and then torque the bolts. Now get this, then wait 24 hours before refilling with fluids or returning the item to service for the material to cure fully. So what are the main alleged issues with using RTV? The first one is that RTV will damage your oxygen sensors. Absolutely right. If you are using a tube made in the late 80s or early 90s, otherwise, no. The second alleged problem is that pieces come away and find their way into the oil and block filters and oil galleries. Let's break that one down. I would argue reasonably confidently that if the correct amount of sealant was used and the instructions followed to the letter, then pieces would be extremely unlikely to break away. Let's face it, if the flange is tightened up before it is supposed to be, and or the engine is refilled with oil or used before the sealant is fully cured, then it should come as no surprise that pieces come away. As for blocking filters and oil galleries, well look, I'd like to be sure of winning the lotto as I am that that's extremely unlikely to happen. I mean, especially when sealing a sump. So let's look at this logically. You would need a lot of broken off pieces of RTV to block the oil pickup. As in, what did you do? Pour a whole tube in the flippin' oil filler? Any smaller bits that did get past the pickup strainer would then have to go to the oil pump, which is a really close tolerance gear pump. RTV is not going to hurt a gear pump. It's too soft and it will come out in a hell of a lot of more pieces than it went in. The next point of call after the pump is the oil filter, and it ain't going to get past that. And the amount you would need to block the filter, well, fair income, I just don't buy it. I have pulled a lot of sumps off a lot of engines and found a lot of RTV in a lot of oil pickups, including this engine, and none of them have had any issues with oil blockage or oil starvation, not a single one. But hey, if you want to chemically weld your sump back on with the OEM sealant, you go right ahead, because at the end of the day, it's your engine, not mine, and if it all goes pear-shaped, it's you who'll be paying for it. Right, that's enough about sealant. Let's put this thing back together. Okay, regardless of which sealant you have chosen to use, make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions and you shouldn't have any issues. Also, be sure to use the accepted protocol for tightening of flanges to give your sealant the best chance of doing its job. Be sure to offer the sump baffle up to the block first and by itself, because if you try to do it with it installed into the sump, the baffle won't clear the oil pickup. Once your sealant has fully cured, again refer to the manufacturer's instructions, refill the oil, and if you haven't already done so, replace the oil filter and check the sump for obvious leaks. If that's all good, refit the headers using new gaskets, run the engine checking for oil pressure, oil leaks and exhaust leaks. Let the engine get up to operating temperature, then shut it down and let the oil settle in the sump for a while. Check the oil level and top up if required. Give everything a final check over, and if you're happy everything is good, take the car off the stands and you're done. Speaking of done, that's it for this video, and as always, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing for more content. There is plenty of cool stuff in the pipeline, so ring the notification bell and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.